Hello, everyone. Your teacher, Catherine White, asked me if I would speak to you about dance. I'm delighted to do this. First, you should know that I am 74 years old. I began dancing when I was 8 years old and retired at age 73. So that means dancing one way or another. I've been doing it for approximately 66 years. Second, I met your teacher, Catherine, when I was a ballet teacher in the Department of Dance at Florida State University, and Catherine was an undergraduate. She was, as you would imagine, young, very bright, and very talented. I would also like to say that you are very, very lucky to be working with her. Though what I have to say is good basic information for everyone, what I would like to say is I wish to direct my thoughts to the boys. Boys, a career in dance is great. For sure, it is like no other profession in the world. There is nothing to compare it to. Well, maybe being an actor, a singer, or a musician has some comparison because these areas are all about being in the arts. In being in the arts, one must be disciplined and be able to follow a set of rules, elsewise, all is lost. Actually, I see being a dancer as pretty normal, and that's because it's what I've always done. Actually, my dance career was pretty much about diversity. Not that I planned it that way, but because I was a boy, many doors were open to me. That was the fortunate thing about being a boy in my day. When I was entering my junior year in high school, my parents allowed me to audition for the professional ballet training program at Canada's National Ballet School. And at the National Ballet School, I completed my high school academic work, danced additionally for another 5 to 6 hours every day, and danced 6 days a week. We had Sunday off. When I graduated from the National Ballet School, I was ready to go into the National Ballet Company of Canada. But my parents wanted me to give college a try, so I agreed. That is, if we could find a college that had a dance department. After all, remember, this was 1959, and college dance programs were pretty new, and only a few universities with major fine arts programs had a dance department. I lucked out. I applied and auditioned for Butler University's dance department in Indianapolis and was accepted. After graduating from Butler, I returned to Canada, spent a little time back at the National Ballet School while waiting for an opening in the National Ballet Company of Canada, and within a couple of months an opening did come up and I was taken into the company. Again, I was a boy, and a boy at this time was very lucky in dance. Why? Because there were not many boys in dance. Not this is not the same today. Today there are lots of boys. Today there are really many fine, technically accomplished male dancers, sort of like the level of what we have just seen in the in the Olympics in gymnastics in Rio. Boys in ballet need to have a very strong and well-defined physique, a great toned figure, and have a very good, solid ballet technique. Boys must have very strong jumps and must be able to do beautiful beats and must be able to do also multiple pirouettes, not just one or two, but I would say minimum of 4 turns to each pirouette today. Boys also must have done lots of pas de deux work and be able to partner and lift the girl in all the big lifts of which many are tricky, if not complicated to do. Boys also must be free of injury, so this means going to the gym and working out to develop and further train your body to protect it from the rigors of dancing so that you will have a long career and to be as free from injury as possible. Remember, once you're injured, it takes a long time to rehab in order to return to that place you were. And often that injured area is a very vulnerable place for the rest of your dancing days. So it may mean developing a training program to protect injured areas from further injury. It is not easy, but I promise you, it is a most wonderful career. For me, it was like my candy shop. You can have whatever you want if you take care of yourself and are ready for the rigors and challenges that face both boys and girls too as dancers. Okay, so now I'm in the National Ballet Company of Canada. I was really at the start of my professional career as a dancer. In the National Ballet Company of Canada, I danced a number of ballets. Many we all know: Nutcracker, Swan Lake, Coppelia, Giselle, Romeo and Juliet, and many other ballet works like those of the great choreographer George Balanchine of the great choreographer, the late George Balanchine of the New York City Ballet, and the choreographer Frederick Ashton of England's Royal Ballet. I actually liked Ashton's choreography a lot because it was dramatic, and so I was encouraged to move on to England. After 4 years in the National, I auditioned for the London Festival Ballet in London and was accepted, then moved to London, where I remained for the next 3 years, dancing those same ballets I had just mentioned earlier, plus many others. Then I returned to the USA. This time I settled in New York City because I was interested in Broadway and television. Interesting it is, as your career moves along, you move along too. Your thoughts, your ideas, and as you develop, maybe the idea of moving into choreography becomes a goal, or maybe the idea of training and how to train dancers grabs hold of you. And so you begin to think about teaching, maybe even becoming an artistic director of a ballet company. The dance world is there for you, and as you move forward, you will see your goals and idea move forward with you too. So here I was in New York City. I had always loved jazz dancing. I studied lots of tap when I was a kid, and musical comedy dancing very much involves both jazz and tap dancing. So New York was a definite goal for me. I was fortunate to have some friends and colleagues in New York who knew about openings for Broadway musicals going on tour, and those other shows that were in need of dancers. Again, boys. They were always needed. So I had auditioned for the off-Broadway show called The Fantasticks for the role of the mute, and actually got the role. Here I got to do some acting, though I did not have any lines to give. I did have to develop, though, a sort of expressive pantomime ability to my dance work in order to be able to communicate the intent and purpose of the mute, because the mute was always a solo creature in The Fantastic, who did special little spots with the main characters. I loved this show and did it for about a year. Next, I went into the national touring company of the Broadway show Camelot. I got this job because one of my best friends was in the show and knew that the choreographer was looking for male dancers. And after Camelot, I did another musical. It was called No Strings by Richard Rodgers, my favorite musical still, and always will be. I had some lines as an actor in this show, and I even had to sing. So during rehearsals for the show, I was taking singing lessons in the evening. Though I was not a singer, I had to be able to do my best and sound as good as I could. So I would not sound like a one-note Johnny, and a flat one-note Johnny at that. So after being in New York for around 5 years, I applied for the director's position of a small ballet company in New York State. It was the Syracuse Ballet Theater. This was a new and major challenge because I suddenly found shoes on my feet that were very different than the shoes that I had always worn as a dancer. I had to keep the dancers in training. I had to set and rehearse the ballets and the schedules. I had to assist the manager in the business end. I had to make arrangements for guest choreographers. If a dancer was injured, it was up for me to find replacements for them. It was just totally different from being a dancer. But however, I was clever enough all those years to watch others who I worked for to pay attention to what was going on. And so when I got this chance, I would have the knowledge and insight to do what I needed to be done. This was something I would not learn in university. University does not prepare us for this kind of stuff. It is called street smarts and the ability to survive, because if you didn't have this knack, then you were very easy to replace. So after 8 years as artistic director of Syracuse Ballet Theater, in 1973 I applied for a teaching position in the dance department at the University of South Florida in Tampa. I knew the chairman of this department. His name was Bill Hugg. He is no longer with us though. Bill invited me to come to USF for a week to be interviewed and to teach for a week so that other faculty members could see my work and get to know me a little. I got the job. I left Syracuse and moved to Tampa in 1974 and joined the dance faculty at the University of South Florida and remained there until 1979. In 1979, the dance department of South Florida, the chairperson, Dr. Nancy Smith-Fisher, invited me to come to FSU to teach and see the FSU dance department. I went for a week. I did not go looking for a job because I was really quite happy at USF. But Dr. Fisher offered me a position I couldn't refuse. I was offered the directorial position of the ballet program at FSU in 1979 and joined the FSU dance department and remained there until 2004. In 2004, I retired and went back to Canada to my alma mater, the National Ballet School, and taught senior boys at the National Ballet School until 2010. And then when I decided the winters were too cold and too long in Canada, I returned to Florida. So guys, about earning a living. If you're not only a fine dancer, but if you are a very good one, you will have a very good life as a dancer. I was never out of work. If you are creative, bright, inventive as a dancer, show interest in the craft beyond doing it as a dancer. The dance world is there for you. It's open to you as a choreographer, a teacher, an artistic director. Who knew when Catherine White retired? Who knows when Catherine White retires? You may even interview to replace her. For me, I will always think that because I was a guy, and there were not many guys as dancers in the late 50s, early 1960s, the door was open for me in different ways that are very different from today. But remember, if you are a fine male dancer, you will always work. As you grow, the sky is the limit for you. Take care. Have a great career. Talk to you later.